Now, Mercedes-Benz have had a slew of launches this year, and it's been car after car. The AMG lot have come in and we've been seeing a whole load of action. But this car is really important. The fact that they brought the launch forward by a couple of months shows just what the new C-Class means to them. Well, it's here. Let's find out what it's all about. Well, you can easily mistake it for an S-Class visually. And that's until you see the proportions, which though longer and wider than before, are still very much indicative that it's a Mercedes entry-level luxury sedan. It has the same tapered tail, the bulging haunches, the creased sides and the delicately detailed LED headlamps as its older sibling, the S-Class. But it rides higher with its India spec suspension. Up front, it has its own identity with the sporty 2-bar grille pairing the large 3-pointed star in the center. The new C looks good and we like it. The interior of the C-Class really wows you. It looks several classes above. There's this beautifully sculpted dash, a nice glossy wooden central console. All materials look really rich and quality is hard to fault. There's splashes of chrome everywhere, nice little touches like the stippled buttons, the ornate covering for the speakers. Of course, for equipment, you really have loads of it. There's the command system tablet, which has a host of functions, and you even have a touchpad to operate it now. There is the typically Mercedes analog clock sitting in the center of the console, and everything inside spells premium. Let's take a look at the equipment. There are the basics like auto climate control, which is 3-zone, a rear view camera and Bluetooth connectivity. But then they've added goodies like satellite navigation, LED ambient cabin lighting with 3 selectable colors, push-button start, a massive panoramic sunroof, and a magnificent sounding 13-speaker Burmester hi-fi system. There's also memory function for both front seats. The C-Class will launch first with the 2-litre turbocharged petrol engine, which is the same as in the E200. It has 181 bhp and 30.5 kgm of torque. This engine feels nice and refined. It pulls cleanly, it's got a good strong mid-range, and it actually feels responsive. It's not as free revving as some of its competitors, but you can't complain. It serves up the power whenever you need it, and it gets to triple-digit speeds with such ease that you barely feel it. The only problem really is the gearbox. When you want to get an urgent move on, if you put your foot flat on the accelerator, it takes its own sweet time to shift down and lands up feeling a little slow. However, there is the option of agility drive, which can counter some of the lag of the gearbox. Of course, you have the different modes that you can use, and you can switch between Eco, Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, and you even have an individual setting where you can fine-tune everything. But you have to remember that these settings will only change the way the gearbox reacts, the steering tightens up, and of course the aircon behaves. It will not affect the suspension. The Eco mode makes the steering nice and light, blunts throttle responses and switches the aircon to Eco mode too. It's a setting for those with one eye on the fuel gauge. However, it makes the G-tronic shifts very smooth and seamless. At the opposite end is the Sport Plus mode, which weighs up the steering, sharpens throttle responses, hangs in each gear longer, and it deactivates the start-stop by default. But it's really comfort where the C settles in best. It builds up speed easily and smoothly. Though the 7G Tronic box is a little slow to react, it's still an improvement from before. The other improvement is the steering. This new C has moved from a hydraulic steering to an electric one. But I have to say, it feels really quick and nice. It's good off-center. It turns in exactly where you want, feels responsive, very positive. We miss the wonderfully weighted feel of the older steering. But this one is quicker, making the C-Class feel more eager to change direction. And it's not only that. On the whole, it feels more agile and better planted, be it around corners or in a straight line. Cruising at high speeds feels effortless too, which brings us to comfort in the back seat. Just how is it? I think the C has a good amount of legroom for its segment. It feels extremely comfortable and spacious. There's nice headroom. The width of the seat is good as well. Enough space for three. However, the tunnel will intrude into the legroom for the third passenger. The seats are comfortable too. However, the squab may feel a little short for taller passengers. But that's pure nitpicking. A lot has changed in the new C, and ride and handling is also completely different. With a lot of aluminium in its construction, the C-Class is now lighter and the chassis is stiffer too. However, for our Indian roads, it lands up feeling a bit too stiff. The back seat is comfortable, and when you're traveling around the city at lower speeds, the ride is actually quite good. It cushions you from the bumps and potholes really well. However, as you gain momentum and when you go through sharper bumps and potholes, it does get caught out and it feels quite firm, and the suspension can be heard through as well. The low-profile 225/50 R17 tires are to blame to some extent for the sharpness in the ride at times. And though this doesn't have the flattening ride quality of the older C-Class, it still feels comfortable at most times, and ride quality really is up there with the best. The new C-Class has improved on every front, and we find that with the more responsive motor and better agility, it's also more entertaining to drive than before. The new C-Class is improved, but it's not perfect. We did find some faults with it, like the ride quality that gets caught out on sharper bumps and potholes. And the fact is, behind the wheel, this car is not as involving as, say, a 3 Series is to drive. But the fact is, this one is aimed at luxury, and that it offers up in huge measures. It looks every bit the luxury car. The interiors are definitely class-leading. Quality is hard to fault. It's very well equipped. This car pampers you on the inside, and for that alone, it's worth buying.